Okay, hello everybody. We'll just start. Welcome to the Horningsea Greenway engagement event, virtual engagement event. As a way, I'll just go around our virtual table, looking at, and we'll go into some introductions. So I'll start off with myself. My name's Ben Hathaway. I work for GCP. I'm the project manager for the Horningsea Greenways. So I'll just go around the table. So Adam.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. I'm Adam Bootel. I'm principal engineer at Milestone. We're responsible for one of the sections of the Greenway to discuss today.
Aitana.
Hello, good evening. My name's Aitana. I'm a principal design engineer at WSP, and I'm supporting in the design and managing the Horningsea route.
Thank you. Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex Sargent from WSP. I'm the design program manager overseeing all the design work for 7 of the Greenway routes that we're looking after.
And finally, Pam.
Pamela Hawkins, and I work for GCP and I'm the assistant project manager on this project. Okay,
well, thanks very much, everybody. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to have a presentation on the Horningsea Greenway, where we are to date, and with some show you some sort of concept designs, and then we will answer any questions you may have. We'll aim to answer them on the night. We'll perhaps, if you put your hand up, or if you want to ask a question, please put your hand up, or you can type in a question on the facility within Zoom. Okay, so I will start by sharing the screen and we'll begin the presentation. Okay, so can everybody see this this sort of front slide? Yeah, okay, brilliant. So again, as I said earlier in the introduction, this is a sort of engagement about Horningsea Greenway by the Greater Cambridge Partnership. So just a bit of an overview on the Greenway scheme. So the Greater Cambridge Greenways are a network of 12 active travel routes into Cambridge from the surrounding villages. And the aims are to provide a safe, well-connected, active travel links within Cambridgeshire for walkers, cyclists, and where possible, horse riders. So final board approval for the Greenways project was granted by the Executive Board in December 2020. And transport consultants were appointed in the summer of 2021, and the development of the Greenways has been advanced through the concept design work and surveying into 2022, where we are currently. And we've got specific details to follow. So the routes include, so Atkins are looking after the northern routes, which are St Ives and Waterbeach. Atkins are also looking after the south routes, which is Sawston and Melbourne. So these are the southern Greenways. WSP are looking after the eastern routes, which is Fulbourn, Horningsea, Bottishams and Swaffhams. And also WSP are looking after the west routes, which is Haslingfield, Barton and Comberton. So tonight we're obviously focusing on the eastern route, which is Horningsea, and predominantly a WSP design scheme, although in the introductions, part of it has been designed by Milestone. So again, a quick overview on Horningsea, where we are currently with it. So our current position is technical concept designs have been completed. These follow the route alignments agreed by the Executive Board. And the concept design work includes the following. So utility searches, so that's looking for, basically we're looking for underground cables and services such as BT cables and gas lines. Topographical surveys. For those of you that don't know, a topographical survey is measuring the physical landscape. So it's looking at undulating ground, etc., etc., and what we're going to do with it in terms of drainage, that type of thing. Traffic data collection, which can be traffic, actual physical traffic counts, and also measuring traffic volumes as well. Technical concept designs, well, they are sort of initial designs, and initial stakeholder engagement, which we are actually in part of it tonight. So there's a focus now on the preliminary operational design stage. So further technical work's going to include a site walkthrough by the technical team. So this could be the design team, the construction team, just to look at the site on a one-to-one scale, because there may be things that have been overlooked in the design phase. A technical assessment of the existing structure over the A14. So the Horningsea route itself, it does span the A14, and so it's just having a look at the bridge that goes over the A14. Environmental assessments. So we're currently looking at the ecology, biodiversity, landscape, heritage, flooding, noise, and carbon. Highways design itself, which is the physical design of the construction designs, if you like, of the Horningsea Greenway. Again, stakeholder engagements. We are currently in stakeholder engagements, hence why we're all here. Looking at early delivery as well, where possible, if we can, if we are able to get to site any quicker than we publish, then that's certainly something we will be looking at, although tonight I'm not going to promise anything. And also value engineering. So value engineering is looking at ways we can save money for the taxpayer. So there may be a way in which we can save money but still produce the same quality product finish. Okay, and just this slide is really a very, very broad sort of timeline. So obviously we are in 2022 at the moment. Well, we're in the last month now of 2022. So we're carrying out design and investigations on Horningsea. And then in 2023, we will carry out the detailed design and planning. And as I said earlier, our intentions are to carry out early works on the highway sections. So in 2023 as well, construction is due to start. And in 2024, construction should be completed. Okay, so public engagement. So a public engagement will be held in December for Horningsea to share the latest design. So the engagement period is scheduled to run for 4 weeks. So that's from the 21st of November, which when it started, to the 16th of December. So we've got just over 2 calendar weeks left of the public engagement. And so these will include a virtual event, which is where we're at now. So tonight we're here on this Zoom call. And again, one for the diaries. We are holding an in-person event on Horningsea on Tuesday, the 6th of December. So next Tuesday, that's going to be Horningsea in Horningsea Village Hall, and that's from 2 o'clock in the afternoon until 7 o'clock in the afternoon, where us as a team will be there in person to answer any further concerns or just any general questions you may have. And then we will share sort of online materials, technical drawings, and any survey feedbacks. So stakeholder engagement. In the run-up to the public engagement, meetings and workshops are held with key stakeholders, including local authority officers, non-motorised user forum. So a non-motorised user forum, it's for pedestrians, cyclists, horse riders, those types of things. So parish council and national highways. And also we're including, we've had a councillor briefing session as well. And the purpose is to allow all stakeholders and the public to comment on our emerging designs. So has anybody got any questions before we move on to the design proposals? And again, if you want to type in a question, you can. Hello, David.
Hello, sorry, I had a complete computer meltdowns, but I'm online now if you want me to take over chairing. So
yes, please, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, apologies to everyone. Hello, I'm David. Oh, I lowered my hand. I'm David Charles. I'm communications manager here at the GCP. And just to prove modern technology is not all to take up to be, my computer just completely crashed and it wouldn't let me back in. So I've been frantically trying to join the thing for the last 10 minutes. I do apologise. So as Ben has said, if anyone's got any questions, if you want to raise your hand or if you want to put something in the chat function, if I can't see anything in any of them, so we'll move on to the next stage then, Ben.
Okay, thank you, David. So Horningsea Greenway, I don't know how well you can see this. This is a sort of a picture, an aerial shot of the Greenway route. And it goes sort of, and you can see it spanning the A14, and also there it's in close proximity with the Waterpeach Greenway route. Okay, so here it is in a bit more detail. So we'll start at section 1. So the section 1 goes from Clayhythe Road to High Street in Horningsea. Section 2 goes from Horningsea Road, is Horningsea Road, and that goes from Horningsea to Fen Ditton and includes the spanning of the A14. And also it's worth mentioning the proposals do encapsulate the proposed work by Anglian Water. So they have plans for a new wastewater treatment plant, which we are working with, in communication with them, but the wastewater treatment plant is separate to the Horningsea Greenway development. Moving on to section 3, it goes on to the High Street in Fen Ditton. And then section 4 is a Wadlow's path, which is Fen Ditton to Cambridge itself. So we'll start on the Wadlow's path to Ditton's Meadow, which is also known as the Bow Tie. So, which I'll just go back for reference, which is this area here, for those that don't know. So our issues and opportunities we had when looking at this, looking to enhance it and improve it, was looking for, there was an opportunity for an improved shared use path. We wanted to retain a local character, but there were width limit opportunities for significant improvement. But it's also important to note that multiple paths converge at this point, which is the Horningsea and Bottisham Greenways. So this is a sketch, a design of how the intention of the Wadlow's path to Ditton Meadows, which is known as the bow tie, and you can sort of see why it does resemble a bow tie. If you look at the two patches of grass. So the proposal is for selective path widening to try and get 3 meters where possible, new signage and landscaping improvements, crown lifting at key locations, decluttering and relocation of bins, and the potential new tree and sleeper steps, and the reason for the sleeper steps, it's referencing the history of the site as a crossing on the old railway line to Mildenhall. So then we go back to section 3, which is Fen Ditton Church. So again, the issues and opportunity we encountered were there was local character and width opportunities for improvement, an improved junction and accessibility, the provision of a cycle route, continuity and cycle storage. But one of the issues was that parked cars obscured the visibility in and out of the public path. So it's what to do with those. So we had a meeting with Fen Ditton Parish Council, and we sort of came up with this design because there was a desire to keep the war memorial as it was, as it is, as it is now. So our proposal is, following discussion with the parish council, as I've previously said, the area by the war memorial will not be affected by the proposals. The turning point will remain as existing. So I understand it's used as a turning point at the moment for bin lorries and other delivery vehicles. Also, the proposals to include improving visibility to and from Wadlow's Path. So the existing parking will be relocated further east. Now, whether that's actually 10 metres, I don't know, but I think we'll say there will be no net loss in existing car parking spaces. Cycle storage to be provided. So section 3, Horningsea Road and High Street Junction. So our issues and opportunities. So there is limited controlled crossing provision for cyclists and also traffic speeds as well. So taking that into account, our proposal was installing a parallel crossing on the existing raised table at the High Street to provide a safer transition for cyclists between the road and the path. And a parallel crossing will enable cyclists to cross a road safely and with the same level of priority as a zebra crossing gives a pedestrian. So section 2, the Horningsea Road. Again, issues and opportunities we encountered. There was a limited controlled crossing provision for cyclists, so it made it difficult for them to cross the road. A constraint by available width. So this is quite important that actually the width we've got available to extend to, we're going to try and achieve 3 meters where we can, although there are pinch points where we actually cannot achieve 3 meters just because of physical restraints. And also there were high traffic speeds encountered. So I don't know if you remember, I said as part of our design works, we would have carried out traffic surveys. Some of those may well have been speed surveys or as well as traffic counts. So the proposal we have put forward is footway enhancements and improved crossings to improve pedestrian accessibility along this section of the route. We're going to have improved maintenance of existing vegetation to improve access and visibility. And we're going to reduce the current speed limit to 40 miles an hour to make, it increases people's drivers' reaction time. So and also just by generally slowing the traffic down, it makes for a safer environment. So this is, I touched upon Angle and Water's proposal to put a wastewater treatment plant, and they are in consultation at present with residents and stakeholders. But so the proposal for this section of the Horningsea Greenway is there's going to be a reconfiguration of the existing junction between the A14 and eastbound Slip Road and Horningsea Road into a 4-armed signalised junction. This also connecting a new road to the facility. So you can see here. And it will improve pedestrian and cycle crossings. So improvements to existing pedestrian and cycle crossings. But I think it's important to add that this is Anglian Water's proposed wastewater treatment plant is running concurrently with the Horningsea Greenway, but they are completely separate schemes. They will complement each other. So if you've got any comments on the Anglian Water proposal, please just have a look at the address. I'm sure everybody's had this with their communications with Anglian Water. There's a address to a website which you can add your comments on the proposed wastewater treatment plant, because I understand it is still proposed. So just going on talking a bit more about the wastewater treatment plant. You know, the Anglian Water want to carry out improvements to green spaces, which is provide a continuous use for the countryside for recreation by creating quiet places for both people and nature within the landscape area. These areas will be connected to the local communities by a series of new paths and bridleways. And again, this is a proposal by Anglian Water. So we move to section 1, which is the Horningsea Village Gateway itself. And so the issues and opportunities we encountered on this particular section were, again, high traffic speeds and local character and width of highway available, considered improvement opportunities. So our proposal is to build out with landscaping and fencing at the gateway feature, install giveaway markings to give priority to traffic leaving the village, speed reduction features on entry to village to provide a safer transition for cyclists between the road and the path, and an opportunity for speed limit reduction within the village to improve pedestrian and cyclist safety and comfort. So we're talking about a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. So again, the proposal, so they were, this was part of the proposal, and this is the continuation of the proposal. So we're going to have a quiet street environment, a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, and we're going to have traffic calming measures such as build outs at key locations. Okay, so that is the end of the Horningsea Greenway presentation. I'd like to thank you for your time, and please, if you've got any questions, please ask.
Okay, thanks very much. So the first person I can see who's got their hand up is Catherine Martin. So I'm just going to click the unmute button.
Hello, thank you very much. I'm Andrew Martin. I live in Horningsea on the High Street, so it's something that's going to affect me greatly. On your design, you're doing a great deal from the south entrance to calm the traffic down to 20 miles an hour by having this build out, essentially a one-way system as an entry to the village. But when you look at the north end of the village, your scheme seems to end at Dock Lane, and there appears to be a part of the village which will be 30 miles an hour, and at Dock Lane it goes to 20. The thing that worries me here is that you appear to be putting a cycle lane down the middle of the high street. And as a cyclist myself, I'd be horrified to cycle towards Waterbeach using this centre lane, which I assume it is, and then suddenly see a car coming at me at 30 mile an hour when I got to Dock Lane. There also doesn't seem to be any explanation as where the cyclists go when they get to Dock Lane. Do they go on the pavement, or I'm not sure. It doesn't appear to be any traffic calming sort of infrastructure being put in position here for calming the traffic? Because as we know, traffic comes down from Waterbeach at a fairly high speed. Some people come straight into the village, which is quite open, and there tend to be 40-mile-an-hour people coming in at 40 miles an hour. So I'm a bit horrified that poor cyclists who have been protected through the village suddenly get hit by a car going at 30 miles an hour. So I wonder if you can explain this, please. It doesn't seem to make any sense at all at the moment.
Okay, Atana, have you got the relevant drawing we can bring up, please?
You're on mute, Atana. Thanks for your question. We'll just...
Apologies. Let me look for the drawings and I'll pull those out.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, I mean, because Ben, we've got a number of questions in the chat as well about this, about the north, where in the village does the Greenway stop, and what are the arrangements at the north end of the village, and what the arrangements are going out north of Horningsea towards Waterbeach.
Okay, well, I think we can answer those when Atana gets the
I mean, I assume those dots in the middle of the road are a cycle path, are they? I'm not quite sure what they mean, really. That means that cyclists have right over cars.
So I'll run through some generalities while Aitana brings the drawings up, but there'll be a transition from the shared use path that runs between Fen Ditton and Horningsea, and there'll be a transition point where the cyclists will be reintroduced to the carriageway, and so through the village, cyclists will be on the carriageway. So in terms of where the route formally ends, the formal provision in terms of off carriageway ends there, and the destination for the Greenway is in the village. And then the focus is through the village to make a comfortable as possible environment on the carriageway through a mix of traffic calming. The cycle markings in the centre are just for awareness. They're not formal, this is a cycle lane or anything like that, but they're to promote to drivers that this is that's a valid mode of transport, and I guess.
Yeah, so if you were to cycle down the middle of the road, you would be perfectly in your rights to cycle in the middle of the road, would you?
You'll have to follow the standard highway code.
Well, the highway code says that now. I think that you have to give way to cyclists, I think.
So there is, it's that cyclists have, an entitlement, and they can ride in the primary position, as it's called, center of the lane, if they are comfortable, and if they feel that it's unsafe to overtake. I think there still is a clause that they can't unduly hold up traffic. So that's probably still an
it won't be much because it's a very short distance. But as you can see now, you've got it up on the screen. On the right-hand side there, where the end at Dock Lane, where you've got the cursor on it. And that's the bit that worries me. I mean, cars coming in from the north could be going at 30 miles an hour at that point. That frightens me to death. 30 mile an hour at that point, and so cyclists could be cycling in the middle of the road, or thinking they've got the right of way. Maybe that sounds very scary. That.
Okay, thanks for your point. Ben, did you want to address that? There's a number. I'm just looking through the questions we've got, and a number of people have raised what's happening at this transition point around where the sort of where the Greenway stops, which is at Dock Lane. So,
right, okay. So again, these are sort of preliminary designs. So if you notice on the where the cursor is, or where the hand is on the by Dock Lane, adjacent to Dock Lane, that will begin. That will be the 20 mile an hour. That will be the beginning of the 20 mile an hour speed limit. So
Yes. Yeah, but the other side of the railway of the red line is 30 miles an hour. That's just my point.
yeah, okay.
And there doesn't appear to be any provision for the cyclist to suddenly have a safe path, maybe onto a dedicated cycleway, or maybe drive it cycling on the pavement. I've no idea. I mean, it looks incredibly dangerous.
Okay, thanks for you.
No, thank you for that. We will take that away. That's a
Yeah,
observation.
yeah, that's a really good point. Thanks very much for making that point. You made that very clearly. Remember, Chris, Lindsay, and others have made other points in the comments around that as well, Ben, about what happens at this transition point. The comment from Chris Lindsay, for example, is that Community Speed Watch regularly records speeds of 50 miles an hour in that section. So there's clearly a speed issue that I think we will have to take away and take away from the feedback that we've received in this meeting.
Okay, fine. Yeah, but no, a valid point, and yes, we will take it away. And
Sue Roberts has got a hand up, and then I'm just going to unmute you now, Sue. So.
Hi.
Hi,
can you
Sue.
hear me?
Yes,
yeah,
I
want to reiterate what Andy's saying. I'm also live in Horningsea on the High Street.
Yeah.
And Horningsea High Street is a very dangerous road. You've got it marked as a quiet road. It certainly isn't a quiet road. It's a very busy road, and the traffic goes through it far too quickly. So the provision at the moment for cyclists that you have made does seem very inadequate. Yes, it seems to stop at Dock Road, and I don't know why it doesn't go on a bit further. Why don't you go on to the lay-by a little bit further up the road with the planned cycleway? And I'm interested to know too what other traffic calming measures you might be putting in place. You say you're going to put build-outs in the road through Horningsea, but there's nothing on the map so far to say where they might be and how they're going to be managed. I wonder if you can actually comment on that.
Yeah, thanks, Sue. Then, why does it stop where it stops in the village, and what build-outs and other traffic calming measures are you putting in place?
Okay, so why it stops where it stops in the village, again, that's something we will have to take away, and but that was what the original brief would have stated. It has to start at a point and stop at a point. So we will have to again have a look at where it actually terminates, where the end of the Horningsea Greenway is on the other side of Dock Lane. And also when we're talking about build outs, traffic calming features, because I take your point that the Community Speed Watch may have recorded cars doing, or vehicles doing, sort of 50 miles an hour plus, and adding build outs, it will certainly it certainly does slow down the average speed of traffic, and again, this is a typical detail, and I think we haven't actually designed in where we're going to actually add these traffic calming measures as yet, have we? I'm talking to Aitana.
Yeah, so yeah, correct, Ben. We've not just yet identified the exact locations where these build-outs will be suitable. Having now the traffic data, we're also going to be looking at parking surveys, because we believe that there's a lot of on-carriageway parking along this section of the route. So we will need to, and obviously driveways as well. So we need to do further investigation to identify the correct position of these build-outs in order for them to actually produce the effect that we want of calming traffic down. So that's something that we'll be looking at this next stage of design, to be a bit more accurate about this.
Okay, so you are planning to do this quite soon, to design the build outs in Horningsea? Yeah,
we are planning to move on to the next stage of design once this has been closed out and we've got public responses and so on. Then we'll gather all the comments from all the public and stakeholders, etc., and we'll take those into account when we progress the design to the next stages.
Okay, because the villages in Horningsea are themselves have been looking at what we can do to calm the traffic through the village, because it is at the moment a very busy, dangerous road and there have been lots of accidents. So really to have a cycleway through, a greenway through the village, you really need to look at that, because it is at the moment a dangerous road.
Yeah, agreed. So
Okay.
we've had similar feedback as well, speaking to parish councillors and so on. So we've been made aware recently of this issue. So it's something that we will look into more detail.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
If I can, on the extents, maybe just a point of clarification, the original scope and brief for the Greenway stopped at the southern extent of Hazenfield Greenway. So any traffic calming and elements like that we've been able to introduce north of that point in the village itself are sort of already additions and are probably difficult to provide, and is probably where some of these comments are coming from. You know, it's quite a late addition. So I think, yeah, if there are things like that, one, they're difficult to provide within the scope of our Greenway, because the focus was always to get from the southern extent southward and address that section primarily. So, you know, we're already sort of hearing comments that we haven't gone far enough north, and there's always that question of where we stop with each of the routes. You know, there's 12 greenways and they all have a start and end point, with the idea that they are extended in the future and joined by sort of the regular county schemes. So I will just put that as a point of clarification, but likewise, if there's anything that we can do within our scope, then yeah, feel free to make suggestions, and we can work on those.
Okay, thanks very much, Alex. Chris, I'm just going to allow you to talk. You're next in the queue to put your question. Hopefully. No. Come on, Chris. We should be able to.
Oh, hiya.
Hi,
thank
Chris.
you. Yeah. So I live sort of towards the north end of the village, and I regularly cycle to Fenditon School with my daughter. You know, so I've got quite a lot of experience with cycling through the middle of the village. I would say a meeting that I attended in September with some of you team. I can't remember exactly who was there, but you were talking that you were extending this through to the north end, and when you brought up this new consultation, it was a surprise to me that it was actually finishing just after Dock Lane. It seems wrong. Also, at that meeting, then you weren't talking about putting any build outs within the village, and then you mentioned it, and now they've appeared. Well, they haven't appeared, because you've said that you're going to actually do them more detailed. You need to take these and actually add them. But the consultation is on now. Will these detailed maps showing the build outs actually be available during the consultation, which has got, what, 2 more weeks to run? And if not, then will there be a 4th consultation on this?
Okay, that's a good point. Thanks very much, Chris. Ben, do you want to answer questions?
Yes, I can answer the question.
During this engagement.
So obviously the design that we've sort of shared with everybody tonight is just, again, it hasn't, we haven't, because we haven't carried out walkthroughs of the site, and as Aitana said, studied sort of traffic data. We don't know where we're going to actually put these build outs, but it's going to be in the interest of producing the best sort of traffic calming possible to residents, and also giving them the least inconvenience.
Yeah. So I mean, so is this a little premature then? Because I mean, these maps that we're looking at now that you've shown, that they're exactly the same ones that were shown in September. Nothing seems to have progressed beyond that. I mean, I know you're under a lot of urgency. You've got to get these easy wins done, and you've got to have it all finished by, is it 2025 for the City Deal funding? But it just seems a little premature, this consultation, to consult. You know, you're asking us to give our views on something that we can't really sea. If you understand what I mean. I mean, like I said, I regularly cycle along this part of the road. I started off with my daughter, who was 7, actually cycling on the road. We stopped that. It's just far too dangerous. I mean, it's horrendous, the amount of traffic coming through. Early this week, the actual road was actually closed because of some roadworks doing at the north end of the village, and it was nice. It was a pleasure, you know. Accidents happen. It is scary to cycle through Horningsea. The ironic thing is, once you're actually onto the cycle path, then it's actually a reasonably pleasant cycle up across the A14 bridge down to the school. Yeah. I do have two other quick comments as well.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
If I may, yeah. One, going further towards the school between I've forgotten the name of the road now. Just after the school, coming towards Horningsea, from the cycle path to Musgrove Way, then cars do park there on the grass verge next to the cycle lane. If you're actually going to widen the cycle lane there by removing the verge, then those cars will park on the cycle path. So be aware of that. I brought this point up back in that meeting in September, and I don't know if it's been addressed. I mean, if you're extended into the field, then that's fine. But if you're going to remove the grass verge, then cars will park on the cycle path.
Okay, well, that's something we will have a look at. We'll endeavour to look at.
That's one for me, probably. Sorry, that's one for me, probably. Chris and Ben, we are planning to widen the path towards the carriageway, so not towards the field, because there's an adjacent ditch, and obviously there's some safety implications with cyclists and pedestrians going too close to an existing ditch. So yes, be going closer towards the carriageway. We were looking to address that with just by sort of formalising the edge with a curb. I don't know from your local knowledge. I mean, it is evident where the vehicles park. I don't know with your local knowledge whether you know, just a regular carriageway curb would be sufficient there, or whether anything, you know, a bit higher containment may be necessary.
I don't know. I mean, well, to stop people parking bollards, but you can't have them on the cycle path, can you?
No.
You know, without a gap. There is an entrance to the field there as well.
Yes.
If you look further past there, so you won't be able to stop cars getting on there to park. And so, I mean, you know, you can't you can't widen it to remove the verge.
Okay, thanks very much for that feedback. That's really helpful. Did you said you had a couple of points? Do you have another point, Chris?
Yeah, I was just going to say one. You keep mentioning about the sewage works. What are you going to do to the A14 bridge if the sewage works relocation doesn't go ahead? Because I mean, it's not a done deal. It's got to go to the Secretary of State, the DCO, in spring.
It does. So if I can answer that. So again, I referenced it in the presentation because parts of it are intrinsically linked. However, if it does not go ahead, then obviously we would have to look at would obviously have to look at the existing parapet height, and make a judgment on what we're going to do with the bridge, with the structure, and anything else to do with the Anglian water site. So it will be as soon as we know whether it's going to go ahead or not, it will affect our design. So if it is going to go ahead, then there'll be no further action from ourselves, except working with Anglian Water to sort of give a seamless delivery. If it is not going to go ahead, then again, that's something I would have to go back to the GCP board to get some sort of direction. But I suspect we would carry out the necessary works.
Okay, thanks, Ben.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Chris. I don't see anyone else with their hand up, but I just want to scroll through the question and answers. I think we've covered everything in terms of, there's quite a lot of concern about this interface, where it stops at Dock Junction between the 30 mile and 20 mile now. But there's a couple of questions. Oh, first, there's a question here from Matthew just saying he missed the beginning of the session. So did I, very sorry. Yes, Matthew, we will be putting this on the GCP YouTube channel. There is such a thing, if you can believe. So this was recorded and you'll be able to watch back the whole of the presentation. And the presentation and all the information in the presentation is also on our website at the moment as well, in terms of the detail of what we've talked about today. So there's two ways you can find out about it, either via our website or via our YouTube channel. We'll put it up to you. And then just following on, Hazel Smith has just raised a question, and I think it was raised earlier on by Margaret as well. There's just a question here, Ben, saying that it doesn't, the project doesn't link Horningsea with Waterbeach, and that is a very dangerous road. I know we've touched on what the extents were, but that's not in scope at the moment, is it, Ben?
That's correct, David. Yeah, at the moment, the Horningsea Greenway had an original scope which was set out in 2016, based on a 2016 report, and all I can say is if the Horningsea, if we have a phase 2, then certainly this will the link you talk of from Horningsea to Waterbeach will be under consideration.
And I think, Hazel, the other point I would make is the primary consideration of the 2016 report was this sort of hub and spoke. It was about a number of greenways that go around Cambridge, linking the necklace villages and improving cycle facilities so people can get from the village into the centre of Cambridge. Village to village connections like Horningsea to Waterbeach weren't considered in that original report, and so and I think every single one, and Alex and the others on this call can nod sagely, every time we've done an engagement about the greenways, people have come back and said, well, why doesn't it also do X and Y as well as what you're planning? So I think this is very much, the greenways won't address all the cycling infrastructure requirements in Cambridge and South Cambridgeshire, but what we are trying to do is bring together a basket of high quality cycle improvements that mean that movement in and out of Cambridge with the villages is more attractive to more cyclists, and hopefully that will then allow, when future funding is found, to build a more extensive network, of which something like Horningsea to Waterbeach could be part of that. A couple more people put their hand up, so we'll go back to Catherine Martin. I'm muting you. It's not Catherine, it's
yeah, it's me, it's Andrew.
Andrew, sorry, I couldn't remember.
Just using our iPad. Just one question about that. The scope.
Yeah.
Is it sort of set in stone that the scope of the project means that the Greenway has to end at Dock Lane, or is that just what you've decided, while you've been looking at it, or is it set in stone that you can't possibly go to the end of the village?
Right. Again, the scope was based on a 2016 report that's been it was revised and it's been and it was issued. So, but we will go out. All I can say is we will go out and on site and have a look at the actual the extent here, and we'll look to make this. And if it does look like it's counterintuitive, we will endeavour to do something about it.
Yeah, that's precisely what I'm saying. It seems like a missing link, really. You're doing really good job at one end and nothing at the other end, and it seems a bit strange.
Yeah, we hear that point. Thanks, Andrew. I think you and others have made that point very clearly. We hear what you said. Ben and team have taken that on board, and we'll take that way. I had someone else with a hand up, but they've disappeared now. So I was trying to think. It was one of the councillors had their hand up, but they've disappeared from the thing. I don't see any. I think I have addressed all the questions in the question and answer section, and I don't see anybody else with that part. Oh, right, someone else. Lawrence, sorry.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you explain, please, because after these consultations have gone through, are there further planning applications that need to be done, and sort of what's the process from here on?
Okay, that's a good question. Ben, would you be able to talk to that?
Yes, so the process will be, I think it was, we touched upon it in the presentation. So what we're going to carry, where we are now is we're preliminary, I'll say it properly, design stage. So as we move on to the construction designs, so we will as we move on to the construction design, we'll obviously assess, we're going to assess sort of technical assessments, environmental assessments, and the actual highways design itself. But we'll be working with our stakeholders in terms of delivery. I do not think there'll be any further consultation before construction. But when I mean that, I don't mean we're just going to turn up with the diggers, etc. But that's my understanding of it.
But two additional points, I think, just maybe, Ben, is because the county council is the highway authority, we don't actually need planning permission to do works within the boundary of the highway. But if we are requiring to move outside the boundary of the highway, and I don't know if we are on this, and we would have to, there's a land negotiation, we would have to then enter into negotiation with landowners about that. So that's often something that phases the work, isn't that right, Ben?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, thanks for that, David.
That's fine. And in terms of where we are, so while there won't be any more formal engagement, we will continue to talk to key local stakeholders like councillors and keep the parish council informed of what we are doing, etc. As I say, there's a website, we have a web page. The Horningsea Greenway has its own page, and that will be kept up to date with information. You can also sign up to newsletters to find out about what's going on about the Greenways projects, and we put out information both in terms of a newsletter, an online newsletter, and also we make comment on social media as well as we go forward. So there's a number of ways. So there wouldn't be a sort of more planning permission, and there isn't going to be more formal engagement like that, but there would be this informal engagement going forward. Does that answer your question?
No, not really. Sorry. Okay. How about the fact that that Fenderton High Street is part of a conservation area, and you're proposing putting a great big red stripe down the middle of the High Street?
So I'll fill in a couple of technical bits from our WSP delivery side of things in terms of how we see it going forward. The council will have deemed planning permission rights over the highway. That's not to say it gets pushed straight through, but as part of that, there's a technical approval process through the county's schemes, meeting with the same assessors that would be assessing any planning permission. So it will go through a planning process. It won't be full planning permission, but items such as conservation area impacts and things like that are part of why we're engaging now. If there's any particular concerns about it, do raise them, and they'll get taken seriously by the design team in terms of the look and feel, and help us inform our scopes in terms of whether we get landscape architects involved and things like that to set out material palettes that are more sympathetic to conservation areas and address items of concern from yourselves. So I think that's exactly the kind of responses that we're looking to get.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, hopefully Alex has done a better job at answering your question than Ben and I there. Thanks very much. Councillor Hoffman, you had your hand up and then you disappeared, so I'm going to take you next because you've now come back.
Yeah, sorry, I pressed the wrong button. I presume you can hear me. A few points. By the church, when you're saying that you might move the car parking spaces for visibility, Cycling that route myself, I see there is brambles that have grown too high. If you actually just cut those brambles down, you can actually see around the corner rather than moving the car parking. Those parking spaces are required, and if you move them up to be right against the junction, that's point number one. Regarding what was said earlier, just before me, that the red lines down the middle would look silly, but the main thing on that road is the state of the road. So if all you did was actually improve the road surface, there wouldn't be so many potholes, and move the cycle paths to the sides where the cars aren't parked. That might be a suggestion that would be more in keeping with the conservation area. Regarding people parking on Horningsea Road, by one of your previous callers, that's usually when it's school drop-off time. So I have seen these new plastic bollards to separate cycle traffic from road traffic used quite successfully. That might be an idea. And regarding the calming of the traffic in Horningsea itself, just 2 points to be aware. I know in Stoke-on-Quay it actually causes more traffic and more congestion and more pollution because people have to stop to pass one another. I'm assuming you might have thought about that. And lastly, regarding a very important point regarding the sewage works, I think it's important to actually develop a plan now, because if the sewage works doesn't go ahead, we need to know what that is. And if it, if it doesn't go ahead, we'd like to see what that is. And if it does go ahead, that'll be quite a few years. So it all depends whether or not you will be doing the greenways before the sewage works, if you see what I mean, on the timing and everything. It all depends where everything goes. So those are all my points.
Okay, thank you very much. A lot of points there, which we've all noted. Ben, did you want to come back on any of the specifics there?
Just regarding the wastewater treatment works for Anglian Water, as I said, is a separate scheme development altogether. But it just there is an intersection, obviously, with the Horningsea Greenway. So if and when a decision is made regarding the proposal, we will act accordingly. So I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head when we're expecting a decision. I don't know if you're any better informed than myself, but as when we actually know for certain, then we can start to plan.
Okay,
in terms of the road surface, again, that's something to speak to the highways team about, the CCC highways team.
Well, we take the point on board.
Yes.
And the other point I think Councillor Hoffman was talking about was plastic bollards. I think actually what you were talking about with Councillor was wands.
Yes, those yeah, they're quite new. They're sort of a recent development, if you see what I mean. They're sort of,
yeah, absolutely.
They separate the whole section.
Yeah. So it's, if you look, if they're right at the top of Histon Road, they've put some in, which makes when you're coming. Those. So when Councillor Hoffman was talking about plastic bollards, she was referring to wands, I think, which is I'm a huge fan of them. They made that bit of Histon Road so much safer. But yeah, we take your points on board. Thanks very much.
Thank you,
Councillor. So I'm right. Then the next person is Gabrielle.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you.
Hello there.
Hello, David. So I am a Camp Cycle trustee. I'm also leader of Milton Cycling Campaign. And so, can you hear me correctly? I can see.
Or is it a bit faint?
Okay, let me change.
Can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay, just raise my volume. Okay, I think it's better now. Okay, so one of the concerns we have in Camp Cycle, and we're still working on the consultation response, is the basically the lack of measures through Horningsea as a village, right? So current levels of traffic in Horningsea are quite high. The latest traffic count that was taken a few years ago, 2008, say that there are about 5,600 vehicles a day. That's a lot of cars through a small village roads. So, I mean, as you know, we talk about the LTN 120 local transport node. Any street over 4,000 vehicle trips is really unsuitable for cycling. So I think this the paint on the road is just nothing really. It doesn't do anything for cycling or the street environment. And the problem is as well that not only that we're going to have 10,000 new homes in Waterbeach, right? So invariably there's going to be an addition of traffic coming in, starting soon because it's home being built already. So that's why I don't think, and we don't think that that the measures through Horningsea will be sufficient to encourage people to do modal shift, right? That they're I hate calling it that, but it's a bit like window dressing, I'm afraid to say. So I know it's been talked about before. I know you probably heard about it, but if there isn't a space, maybe there could be the route could be taken off-road, so taken like on the back of the village, perhaps near the river. I know that has been considered, and another opportunity would be perhaps to, and that would be much cheaper, to perhaps install a model filter through Clay Heights Road, and that way you enable cycling by default, and that would be a fairly cheap measure as opposed to going through all these build outs, etc., which will be a lot more expensive and regains space through the roads. That's one of our main concerns in regarding the Horningsea measures in itself. And also there was a concern as well, sir, within the team around the approach through the villages. Why is there was a consultation? Why is it the approach between Horningsea and Fenditton different? I know we talked about paint, but I know there was a councillor talking about the red paint, but you're giving the quiet streets kind of approach to Fenditton, but you're not doing that for Horningsea. That's if you were going to go through that approach. But anyway, we're still on the same point that paint is not cycling infrastructure. We have more points, but I think it's just for the purpose of this meeting. Those will be coming later on. So that's kind of like the main point is a model filter through Clay Heights Road, and I think that's what will make the most difference to journeys. And also, just to end my point, the GCP is carrying out another consultation at the moment, the Making Connections 2022, and there are no buses being proposed, improved buses for Horningsea. So if we want people to achieve modal shift, and we need to give them the best possible routes and the best possible active travel routes into town, because otherwise they're going to be stuck, right? They're not going to have the right active travel routes. They're not going to have the right bus routes. So okay.
Yeah, no, thanks for your points. Yeah, and obviously a lot of these will be folded into the formal feedback that CanCycle will give on the Greenway, so we will note those. Is there anything particularly you wanted to come back on, Ben or Alex? I mean, there was quite a wide range of points there.
Yeah, I guess only to, I guess if it helps, Gabrielle, in your response, the Fenditton is much lower traffic, and that's why the real promotion of the primary position and centre colouring is employed. And also Horningsea is already red, so sort of out of colours. But I still think, yeah, just given that priority, it is a bit of a different environment. As you say, the volumes are a bit higher than Fenditton, so that really ties our hands on what we're able to produce. The carriageway is quite narrow as well, so yeah, no, definitely take your point, and almost we've put our head above the parapet a little bit by even extending the traffic calming measures into Horningsea, but it's all in the best endeavours. So I think, yeah, if there's anything that can be implemented, I mean, certainly modal filters will be difficult to deliver within the Greenway, given where we're at in terms of we've already been out to consultation, and that's probably a full consultation worthy. We're in an engagement where we're just refining the design here. A modal filter might be something that kicks us back into full consultation mode, so it might be better served as its own measure. So I think there's some considerations that we as a project would make to better package this up. It sounds like maybe the village itself better sits as its own project, as a traffic calming project, where we can have loads more conversations about that, and then almost, you know, cut off the Greenway section and leave that on its own. That might be, you know, a way forward on that, because it does sound like there's a lot of considerations there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alex. Okay, thanks, Gabrielle. So next, Sue, you put your hand up, so I'll let you talk. Next.
Okay, just brief. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, can hear you, Sue.
Yeah, just briefly on the two points on what people have just said. If something was done about the traffic in Horningsea with build outs, as you're proposing, then hopefully the traffic will be put off coming through the village, and therefore there won't be as many cars to worry about. So that would help the Greenway project. The last guy was suggesting that the Greenway didn't actually go through the village, that it was off road, it was put somewhere else. But what is the point of these greenways? Is it not for people from these outlying areas to be able to get into Cambridge? Is that not the idea? Yeah. So obviously it is for people in Horningsea to actually cycle into Cambridge. So it would seem to me that improving the situation in Horningsea is all part of that.
Yeah.
And somebody also mentioned about the cars parked on the road in Horningsea, and that causing traffic to have to slow and you know, causing more problems with the traffic flow through the village. But the cars are going to be parked on the road because that's the only place for some people that live on the high street to park. I'm one of those people. So these are all things that are going to have to be considered and managed in the plan. So that's just the point that I'm making there.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for those points. Ben, if you, I think we'll just note those unless you want to come back.
Yes, no, yeah, we'll take those away and note you, so thank you.
That's fine. Councillor Hoffman, you've got your hand up. Was that a legacy one, or did you want to say something?
Sorry, it's a legacy one.
It's a legacy one. That's fine. Okay, fine. Yeah. Don't want to double check. Okay, thanks. I think no one else has their hand up, and no one else has put a question in the question and answer. And I believe that we've addressed all the questions in the Q&A. So on that point, Ben, will you just want to talk through what the process is, how long the engagement has to run, etc.
Yes. So
final moment to let someone type a question. So
yeah, of course. So the engagement is. It officially started on the 21st of November to 16th of September. And as I said before in the presentation, we're actually in the virtual event at the moment, but next Tuesday from 2 p.m. till 7 p.m. we actually have an in-person event where we're all going to be at Horningsea Village Hall to answer further queries or just to, if you want to come and reiterate any discussions we've held tonight as well, or look at anything in more detail. And then obviously we'll share further technical drawings and survey feedback. But it will closes on the 16th of December. But I think important to note that yeah, we will still, although it closes on the 16th of December, we will, as a team, we'll always remain receptive to anything that we receive.
Okay, Ben. Yeah, so that's next Tuesday. Is when the public event is at the Village Hall in Horningsea.
Village Hall in Horningsea, yes.
From 2 p.m. till
2 p.m. till 7 p.m.
2 p.m. to 7 p.m. Okay, I must make a note to make sure I turn up on time, unlike tonight, which I apologise for again. Good. Thank you very much. I don't see anyone more with any more questions. Any more questions? And I don't see anyone with a hand up. Gabrielle, I see your additional point. We'll just take that on board. So I'm going to call the meeting to close at that point. Thank you very much for your participation. It would be nice to see some of you at the event next week, but your points you've made tonight we'll take on board if you're not able to come or don't want to come. But thank you for your time tonight, and thanks to Ben and Alex and others for their presentation.
Thank you all for coming.
Cheers. Good night. Thank you very much.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.